Chord structures. One of my favorite things to discuss and teach is the music theory behind chord structures. And I cannot emphasize enough the importance of understanding chord relationships when it comes to composing music for media. It's very important to have the ability to understand what a project needs and what a particular character or moment needs within a particular cue or project. With that being said, let's get into our chord structures module. The common chord structure with any key is the triad. It is composed of the 3 or more scale degrees. We're going to use the C major triad in this example. It contains the tonic, as highlighted here, and our at number 1, our median and dominant degrees. So we're going to get comfortable using the cadence of 1, 3, 5. These are referring to the positions within the key signature and also within the chord structures relative to the key signature. And really, to calculate any chord structure, count 2 scale degrees after the designating starting position. Easy to do. We have our 1, and then we add our 2 scale degrees. We have our 3, and then we add 2 more. Then we have our 5, we have our 7, and so on. But we'll get to that later. The triad position really denotes if it's going to be a happy, upbeat, or down and dramatic sound. So if you're not necessarily familiar or comfortable with knowing all your key signatures, hit the first 3 notes on your piano or guitar or whatever instrument that you're using. Hit the first 3 notes. Line them up. In this case, we're using C, E, G. That should definitely have a happy, upbeat sound. And then you can kind of build your motif and your ideas for your piece afterwards. And conversely, we have our C minor scale triad, tonic, median, and dominant, which will still be 1, 3, 5. Whatever key signature you're using, the triad is built on the 1, 3, 5 relationship. And this is the simplification of the relationship: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then back to 1. Now, here we go with a block chord structure. It's a C major triad. C5 is the tonic, E5 is a median, and G5 is dominant. So we can look here. The tonic is taking the 1 or root position. The median is the 3 position, and the 5 is the dominant top position. Very important. Now, with any triad, you can invert, or really any chord, but we're going to focus on understanding the basics. So the triad is the 3-note chord that you hit at the same time. 1, 3, 5. Now, an inversion is simply chords that are in a triad, but they're played at different positions or different intervals, which will provide a unique sound. So we're still with the C major chord just to have a root understanding. No pun intended here. We have our root position, which is 1, 3, 5. Now we're taking our third interval, our 3, and making it the root temporarily. And then we're taking our 5th or dominant position and then adding our starting note as the third interval. And then our second inversion is 5, 1, 3, where we have our dominant taking the root position. In this case, we have our root position taking the median position, and the median position is taking the dominant position. Now, these notes will all be the same, but again, they're in different positions, which gives a very unique blend. Now, we have our two primary structures. We have our block chords, and then we have our broken arpeggio chords. Now this is very common, and it's going to be common in the later lectures that I teach when we actually start producing some music. So now we have a C major triad in arpeggio form. We have C5 that's tonic, E5 is the Midi, and G5 is the dominant. As you can see, we have our notes subdivided into eighths. This is zoomed in, so it may not look like an eighth, but it is an eighth, trust me. We have our tonic, our dominant, and median at different positions, so that it's almost as if it's an inversion. It's broken down, and this is going to be very common in the music that we create. It's going to have a lot of broken notes, so to speak. And then we have our sustaining tonic note really being the bass or the notes that hold the entire structure together. The major, minor, seventh. This is a 4-note interval. Now we had 3 notes initially, and that was a triad, but now we have a 4-note interval. It's played often in a block or arpeggio form. Similar to the triad, we just add the 7th interval or 7th degree to our 1, 3, 5 chord. We're using C minor in this case, which would be C, D sharp, E flat, G, A sharp, and B flat. So now we've highlighted the 1, 3, 5, and 7 locations. This is very, very common in most music. We have our root note sustaining the beat or sustaining a long note. And then we have subdivided notes above the root or tonic position. So we have our 1, and then we have our 5, 3, 5, 7, 3, 5, 7, and 5, as you can see. So we have an ascending pattern from the 5, 7, 3, and 5. And then we have a descending pattern from the 5, 7, and 5. This is a more familiar structure. The block pattern. We have our 1, 3, 5, and 7. Now, it's, again, a slow process to understand music theory, but as you become more comfortable, especially with an FL Studio, you have real feedback in real time lab work to understand these structures.